Welcome to Democracy-ish. Happy Monday, dear friends. It's good to have you here. I'm Danielle Moody.
And I'm Wajat Ali with my chai, exhausted but awake. Some would say even woke. Here to tell you the truth about the weekend, the country, and also to not hold any punches. I don't think we've ever held any punches, Danielle, but MAGA's terrorizing us. It's a right-wing authoritarian movement that specializes in cruelty and, let's be honest, violence and terror. And we saw not just a sneak preview, but we saw essentially what happens to these individuals who get radicalized under Trump, under the Trump regime. We saw it. We've been talking about it all last week, right? We're talking about, God forbid, what's going to happen once you demonize immigrants. What's going to happen once you demonize people of color? What's going to happen once you demonize transgender people? Now we've seen ICE agents unleashed, military unleashed. We went on Friday. We talked over the weekend. We did some special, presentations. They unleashed violence against Senator Padilla. Danielle, right? We're like, you kept saying, if they can go after Senator Padilla, who are you? And then, we kept warning. I mean, it's just the world's worst. I told you so. There, we get no comfort whatsoever. This is no gloating. There's no prizes. I want to be wrong. And we were like, the violence, folks, the violence. And then on the weekend, Danielle, for those who don't know, tell them, unfortunately, what happened.
I mean, it is... I continue to say this, right? Like when you say the world's worst, I told you so. I think that our goal was, maybe has always been to be wrong, right? Like, to be wrong, not because like we don't know what we're talking about, but to believe that this regime and the things that we're saying and the steps and the ordering and the patterns and the escalation, that those things wouldn't come to pass, right? Yep. That these things, there would be some guardrail, there would be some pause, there would be some collective objection, and that's not the case. That's not where we are. So over the weekend, assassin Vance Butler had put together a hit list of 70 Democratic officials and institutions, and decided to take matters into his own hands, whatever those matters were, and to impersonate a police officer.
Yep.
Go to a Democratic state member's home.
Yep.
Shoot and kill her.
Yep.
Shoot and kill her husband. This is Jessica Hortman and
Representative Melissa Hortman and Mark.
Mark. Thank you, Melissa Hortman and her husband, and then proceed to go to another home of another Democratic leader. This
State
time,
Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette.
So the Hoffmans, John and Yvette, who were wounded and spared from death, right? But wounded. And then a manhunt ensued. A manhunt which went on for 2 days. And Vance Butler was found. And I just want to say this before we go into the specifics of what we know at this point. A murderer, a man that had been at large, a white man who has killed 2 people,
yep,
wounded 2 others, had a hit list. A matter, just imagine, never ceases to amaze me that he was able to be picked up, alive, unscathed, and unharmed.
That's a great point.
But a black child playing on a playground, Tamir Rice, murdered. John Crawford shopping in a store, murdered. Trayvon Martin walking home from a store in the rain, murdered. Bokeem Jean in his home, murdered. The list goes on. You can't jog. You can't sleep in your own bed. Breonna Taylor, murdered. You can't, be pulled over. Sandra Bland, murdered. You can't say hands up, don't shoot. Mike Brown, murdered. You can't say I can't breathe. and sell Lucy cigarettes. Eric Gardner, murdered. I can run a list of innocent, unarmed Black children, women, and men who, by virtue of their skin color, can never imagine to have an interaction with law enforcement, interaction with white vigilantes, and not assume that death is going to be inevitable. But a murderer, because also Dylan Roof, Mother Emanuel Church, kills 9 parishioners, and he gets taken for a snack before he goes to jail. He got taken to Burger King before he was taken to prison. So I list all of this, and people want to say, it's not about race. It's not about this. This is the shit that white delusion allows you to believe, that if you just do the right thing and follow the law, you'll be treated accordingly. This man is a fucking murderer, picked up unscathed. But God forbid I have a piece of gum in my pocket if the cops happen to roll up on me. We think she had a weapon, and I will be spoken about in the past tense.
Why? Even in terrorism and political violence, there's white privilege. This is America. And that's a really good point, Danielle. That's something that I didn't think about, and I should have. They found him near his home, and he's unscathed, no bruises on his face, no blood, right? No boots on his neck, no horses trampling him, right? Like they are Mexican and Latino protesters in LA who are protesting their communities being terrorized simply for being brown. This dude looks pretty good. Let's go back to the photo real quick. And what you mentioned is there have been many cases of white domestic terrorists literally firing at the police, shooting at the police, and they still get peacefully arrested, if you will, without any harm to their body. Which means, folks, if the police wanted to exercise caution, if the police wanted to exercise restraint, they could. And they repeatedly choose not to when it comes to a certain brown or black hue and complexion. But when it comes to one of their own, look at this. Was he a bad guy? He looks like my Uncle Chet, who does the barbecue. Sure, Uncle Chet is a racist and a misogynist, but, he goes to church, Danielle. And, sure, we have a racist grandpa once in a while. Nobody's perfect. And this is how you humanize people who look like you, and you demonize the rest of us. And if you think what Danielle said is not connected to racism and this country's dehumanization, this legacy of dehumanization for the past 200 years, then you haven't been paying attention and you haven't looked at the facts, right? Even when it comes down for medicine, right? Law enforcement, loans, right? Jobs, who gets arrested, who gets shot, right? The unconscious bias that exists. Ooh, the black skin.
And I even think that us calling it unconscious, I'm like, is it unconscious at this point?
For some, it's very conscious, deliberate, and intentional. For many, it's like, look at the police officer when he came to Mike Brown, 15-year-old Mike Brown. He was like Hulk Hogan. He was huge. That was the excuse that he gave to take out his gun and shoot Mike Brown, a teenager, right? Hulk Hogan, right? Huge. RFK with his eugenics when it came to thinking that black skin and black people somehow don't need certain, medication. And also Ashkenazi Jews. By the way, yes, that RFK, who, by the way, is going against vaccines and trying to promote eugenics. This is part and parcel of the American project. White supremacy, greed, and violence. And we're still going to find out more about this man, Vance Bolter. Let's give him his name, 57 years old. But what we have found out, folks, and this is another point that we were making on Thursday, was, and again, it's the world's worst I told you so. When Senator Padilla, whose brown skin didn't protect him, right? He's saying, I'm a senator, didn't care. Secret Service saw a brown man, they went to work. It didn't matter he was a brown man. It didn't matter he was wealthy. It didn't matter he was powerful. It didn't matter he was a senator, right? None of that saved him. We said, now, knowing human nature, will Democrats actually step up and fight? Because, let's be honest, folks, when it was undocumented immigrants, when it was legal immigrants, when it was pro-Palestinian activists, When it was transgender folks, woke. Now they went after one of their own. And as of this weekend, this man, Vance Bolter, killed Melissa Hortman, a beloved representative, her husband, wanted to kill John Hoffman and his wife, and had a manifesto and list. And the list had over 70 targets, Danielle. Can you tell them who were some of the people who were targeted?
Yeah. So, as the New York Times reports here, the tally, which included politicians, community and business leaders, and locations for Planned Parenthood, was recovered in a car linked to the attacks. Vance Bolter, 57. He impersonated a police officer. So I'm wondering whether one of the charges will be for that, right? Because, you stack up these charges. Bolter served on a state economic board with Mr. Hoffman. So he had prior knowledge of Senator Hoffman, though it wasn't clear, they say, if the two knew each other. The tally of names and locations was found among papers in a vehicle that was linked to the suspect and recovered by law enforcement officials. Other papers indicated that there have been plans to target No Kings protests, which were organized throughout the country on Saturday in response to Trump. Among the targets listed were abortion providers in Minnesota. According to a spokeswoman for Senator Smith, a federal law enforcement official said the notebook included locations for Planned Parenthood and other health care centers. And now we say here, right? I just want to show you this image. This is Vance Bolter. Rubber mask, him, looking, right? I mean, aside from the rubber mask, but if you're just looking through a peephole and closing a peephole, you're looking out a window, right? Dressed like a police officer. We said that this was going to happen. And
on Thursday, remember?
On Thursday. And what is scarier to me is the fact that all weekend on that cesspool known as Twitter, the right wing tried to tell us that this man, Vance Bolter, was a Democrat, was a left-wing lunatic. And I'm like, how do you even make this make sense? Like, you don't have to go far. And we're going to play a clip from his roommate who said that he is, Vance, very conservative and, quote, would be offended if people thought he was a Democrat, as some had assumed, and that he was a fan of what, Waj? InfoWars, that he voted for and was very happy with Trump, that Trump had won the election. Can you tell them a little bit about InfoWars?
Yeah, well, first of all, real quick, can we go back to that mask real quick just for 1 second?
Yep.
Someone mentioned this. It was Karen. I immediately thought of the movie Drive, excellent movie starring Ryan Gosling, in which, I don't know if you've seen that movie, Danielle. In the movie, Ryan Gosling is a stunt driver who literally wears a Hollywood mask just like that to assassinate a mobster. So I saw that, and that was so chilling, first and foremost, because that mask is chilling. But the fact that he wore that mask, dressed up or impersonated a police officer, and you can get these costumes on Etsy, right?
Yeah, Etsy.
Shows up. Can you imagine this? Like, God forbid, I don't want anyone to imagine this. Can you imagine this showing up at your door on the weekend as you're relaxing with your home, right? And then also, speaking about impersonating law enforcement, what we've been saying for the whole week, in fact, 2 weeks, if you've been watching our show, folks, is one of the many fears that we've had is not just violence being unleashed against innocent communities, terror. What we've been saying on this show is what happens if someone impersonates a law officer, right, and commits violence. Well, it happened in LA a few days ago where a person impersonated ICE, because you don't need a badge anymore, folks. They don't show their badges, and you can just be masked. They're masked, and you can have a weapon. And he tied up a woman, assaulted her, and robbed her store. Yep. That happened. And now you have this type of violence, literal violence, where a person dresses up as law enforcement, comes and kills you. And just think about that, folks. That's terror. You see law enforcement, you're like, oh, to protect and serve. Nope. we're here to friggin' kill you. And also, we'll talk about this, the LA protests, law and order, protect and serve, police, military, National Guard. Nope. They're on their horses, kicking you, using their flashbangs against you, using tear gas against you, right? What happens? Absolute chaos. And then what we've also said, and this is the thing that we've warned about and hasn't happened yet, and I pray to God it doesn't happen. I want to be wrong about this. What happens in this country of over 400 million guns, where there's more guns than people? An actual law enforcement officer, masked, who doesn't give his or her badge, let's just be honest, his, is armed, puts his hand on someone's daughter or wife, say, I don't know, in Texas, or I don't know, Chicago or California, and that person is carrying a concealed weapon. And that person turns around and says, who the F are you? Look at this masked person. Hell no, takes out the gun and shoots him. What's going to happen, Danielle? So something I want people to think about real quick, and then I want to give it to you. But with InfoWars, to answer your question, InfoWars is the notorious website / right-wing conspiratorial media agency that thankfully now is much more weakened and debunked because Alex Jones, the man who's a tinfoil hat crackpot originally from Austin, Texas, got sued into oblivion by the family members of the victims of the Sandy Hook shooting. And these are parents, folks, who lost their children in a mass shooting. And in addition to the perpetual tragedy and pain of having to remember their kids who were just slaughtered by an assault rifle, Alex Jones decided, for shits and giggles and money and views, to promote a conspiracy theory, calling that a false flag operation. In addition to that, think of every nutty conspiracy theory you can, and Alex Jones has been on top of it in the past 4 years because he's so influential, became part and parcel of MAGA. And so that is what this man is watching, radicalized in part by Alex Jones. And let's just be honest, Alex Jones is not an outlier anymore because 80% of Republican voters believe in the big lie that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. This is where the Republican Party is. And that is InfoWars. And can we show the clip of his former roommate who really loved him and knew him? Daniel just read the tweet. Look at the clip.
Talk about his politics a little bit. I know that you had some discussions. I just wanted to talk.
Well, everyone's calling him a Democrat. He's not a Democrat. He would be offended if people called him a Democrat. He because of this board thing he was on for Governor Walz, it wasn't to serve. He was just serving the community. But I can't believe a political issue would cause him to do such a thing.
Did he ever bring up the senator or the representative who were targeted?
Like I was saying, no, he never talked about them. I didn't know those people. I didn't recognize their names.
Any politicians he mentioned?
Well, he mentioned Nancy Pelosi. He didn't like Jim Walz.
Jim Walz?
Didn't like Jim Biden. But
Tim Walz? What would you say about him?
Well, I mean, nothing. It's just normal. Oh, I don't like this that Tim Walz did this. I don't like that he did that.
Did he mention the protests that were planned for yesterday?
He never mentioned the protests.
What did he think of Trump?
So,
to be fair, those who are saying he's laughing, if you look at the clip afterwards, he sits down and he reads the text because apparently he texted him his Bolter kind of this suicide note / bye text, and then he was crying. And then, he was a former roommate and he was like, I didn't see this coming. But anyway, that just the interview continues. Sorry, Danielle, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and I don't begrudge him for, the laughing or anything like that. Like, you're nervous. You've never been on TV before. The person that you think that you have known for however many years, if they've known each other, is now a murderer. And so now you're thinking about yourself and your character and your judgment. And he seemed normal and he was normal, but I can't imagine that politics turned him into a murderer. I think that folks just like take that all into consideration. But I look at this, Waj, and again, it is not so hard to connect the dots of understanding how violent rhetoric turns into violence.
Absolutely.
And we see it happen all the time. And yet, like, people are stunned and shocked, and let's not rush to judgment, and let's not rush to this. And, oh, it wasn't Trump, and oh, it was this, that, and the other thing. And it's just like, like, we don't have to pretend that we don't know who has created the current climate that we're living in. We don't have to like pretend that folks have no idea how we got to this place. Donald Trump has been an unhinged force in American politics for a decade. The man has called for violence against his political rivals. He's called for violence to protect his power. He has laughed and said that he would pay for people's lawyers if they roughed up protesters at his rallies.
Yep.
He has mocked people. He has, the Republican Party has used crosshairs to put their political opponents in on their websites. Like, all they talk about is violence and war and being at war and us needing to root out the enemy and calling your political opponents enemies. Like, you're creating the conditions, providing the ammunition, shaking up the bottle, and just standing to the side. That is what Donald Trump and the Republicans have been doing for a decade. And over that time, this is not the first murder and manifesto that we have seen that has outlined Donald Trump and MAGA belief system and values. And yet mainstream corporate media will still do this both sides bullshit that we saw from Concealia, right? Who looks and says, well, Senator Padilla shouldn't have been asking a question, and he wanted political theater, but also he was roughed up a little too much. There's no both sides when one side has a manifesto and also like a voting record, which is here, of Vance Bolter, that has him as a registered Republican in all of these places.
Registered Republican, Trump voter, Christian. We're going to lead into that in a second.
Mm-hmm.
A person who was known to be against abortion, against the LGBTQ, against wokeness, a person who was a private security contractor. And as part of his job, he was also driving the cars that also are used by the police. All right. Followed anti-LGBTQ hate groups on Facebook, as Danielle mentioned, had a list, a Kill Bill list, 70 individuals that included not just the 4 people that he shot, but also Ilhan Omar, also Attorney General Ellison, also Tina Smith, also lawmakers, also abortion providers, right? This man, through and through, was a right-wing, radicalized MAGA nut. And furthermore, he was a hardcore Christian. He was a white Christian nationalist, just like some of those individuals that showed up on January 6th. That white Christian nationalism was one of the major components of the violent insurrection in which 1,600 plus people, incited by Donald Trump, stormed the U.S. Capitol, beat up cops, smeared poop in the nation's capital, and a few of them came with the intention to assassinate Nancy Pelosi and Mike Pence. Some of the flags that were raised that day, some of the shirts, some of the slogans were associated with Christian nationalists. One of the flags, Appeal to Heaven, conveniently flew at the vacation home of Justice Alito because his wife flew the same flag that is now appropriated by Christian nationalists that was also flying around the same time at January 6th. And she also flew the upside down flag at her home, the same flag that was shown flying at January 6th. Folks, what more do we need to see? This is not an outlier. This is who they are.
Yep.
The modern right wing, especially over the past, I would say since 9/11, but especially in the past 10 years on steroids, has been radicalized by a right wing media ecosystem that realize there is profit and influence and fame by feeding a base that have radicalized red meat. And the thing that happens with them, much like, I don't know, like drugs or porn, is they need a new fix, a new hit. They need a stronger dose. It's not enough just to be pissed off by Black Little Mermaids. Can't make that up. Or M&Ms or Bud Lights, right? Or Hunter Biden. Every day when you have a 24/7 intravenous drip of hate, it's like an addict. They need more, more. And then with media, can't have dead air. You got to keep those eyeballs. You got to keep the viewers. So you need more. So now it's COVID. All vaccines. Bill Gates is control. Climate change is a hoax. False flag operation. Biden is a clone. Folks, we already forgot about that. 2 weeks ago, Donald Trump on a Saturday.
It's just so much.
On a Saturday.
So much.
Posted a QAnon conspiracy about Joe Biden being a clone. This is the president of the United States, Donald Trump. And I said on Sunday, this will be forgotten by Monday. QAnon, a batshit right-wing conspiracy theory that the FBI warned would potentially radicalize individuals and groups ahead of the 2020 election, right? Ended up radicalizing Ashley Babbitt, one of the freaks who showed up to commit violence on January 6th. She was shot and killed by a police officer because she was literally assaulting and breaking in and refusing to listen to him. Her family, folks, 2 weeks ago, got $5 million of your taxpayer dollars because if you're a violent insurrectionist in Donald Trump's America, you get pardoned and you get compensated. And if you're part and parcel of the January 6th insurrection and the conspiracy theory, you get to be the head of the FBI without having any experience, like Kash Patel. And speaking about the Christianity of it all, I just wanted to share this, Danielle. A friend of mine sent this about 10 minutes ago. PRRI. I know you know PRRI, Public Religious Research Institute, fantastic polling group that talks about religion in America, right? Robbie Jones used to be the head of it. PRRI, really good resource. Came out with a new poll. It just came out today. 78%, Danielle, of Republicans are nearly 8 times as likely as Democrats to favor the deportation of undocumented immigrants to foreign prisons without due process. Close numbers for white Christian groups as well. Republicans, 78%. Guess the number for white Christian groups. A little bit lower, but take a guess.
68%.
65%. To deport undocumented immigrants to foreign prisons without due process. Republicans, 78%. Democrats, 10%. Danielle.
You know, so here's the thing. It's so important to connect the dots to all of what has happened, because corporate mainstream media will have us sitting with our hands thrown up and being like, I just don't understand. I just don't understand. And Waj just spent 5 minutes laying
Sorry, I
out
didn't mean to. Sorry for the rant.
No. All of the reasons why we should understand and why none of this should be a shock. And like why all of this is interconnected with white nationalism and white evangelical Christians. I mean, you have to talk about the people who placed a church on top of a enslavement torture prison, right? On the coast of Africa. They had, right, like these enslavement holding prisons where they torture and murdered, and they put churches on top of them, right? Like it is, there needs to be a new word for the sinister, depraved, satanic behavior of these people. But I say that because they intertwine this religion into all of these things and make themselves think that they are the new crusaders. They are the new crusaders. And when you listen to Kristi Noem, which I don't have the video of this, but if you listen to Kristi Noem say, we're not leaving California, even though a federal judge has ruled for them to leave California, Homeland Security, for ICE, for the National Guard to be deputized to the power of the governor. And she says, we're liberating.
Yep.
these people. We're liberating the state of California from these progressives. We're liberating them from their, from their leaders, the leaders that they voted for. So when you have it in your twisted, fucked up mind that you are the savior, that you are the crusader, that you are the patriot, right? Yes, that is why they've had those tattoos. Like, that is the mentality that they have. So they see these acts of violence that happen as just like casualties of war that they have been waging. It's why, folks, like, let me just jump ahead and go to Mike Lee real quick, and go to Mike Lee, a fucking member of Congress's post after this, after 2 people are murdered. And this is what he says: nightmare on Waltz Street, because he thinks that it's funny, right? That, oh, let's make the connection between Tim Waltz and this being like his problem. He also posted this. This is what happened when Marxists don't get their way. What the fuck are you talking about? And mind you, Mike Lee is not going to be censured in the way that Representative Al Green was censured for speaking out against Donald Trump at his first joint session, or the way that Rashida Tlaib was censored.
Yep.
Right? The only Palestinian member of Congress censured, not able to speak, right? Silenced. But this motherfucker can put shit like this up on his social media. This picture right here, this post got 92 million views.
It's pinned, Danielle. He pinned it to his Twitter.
So I want folks to understand that, like, the connecting of the dots here are critical. They are important. And also the connection to religion and who these people think that they are ridding this country of. I want you to take a listen to Vance Butler for a few seconds at some religious church where he is screaming about sexual orientation and gender identity. Hold 1 second. Let me pull it up because the file just stopped. Here you go. Take a listen.
Arrivé dans chaque pensée.
So there's no sin.
Et il n'y a aucun péché
that God can't take care
que
of.
Dieu ne peut pas enlever.
Nothing.
Il n'y a rien.
There's people, especially in America.
Il y a des gens, particulièrement aux États-Unis.
They don't know what sex they are. They don't know how their sexual orientation. They're confused.
Ils ne savent pas ce qu'ils sont exactement. Ils ont une confusion.
The enemy has gotten so far into their mind and their soul.
Et l'ennemi est entré dans le fond de leur pensée et de leur âme.
But this word,
mais cette parole,
cuts deeper.
Va aux profondeurs.
Because it's living.
Parce qu'elle est vivante.
And it's active.
Et elle est agissante.
And God goes down there and pulls that out.
Et elle peut entrer dans notre cœur et enlever tout ce qui est de mal.
And he sets every person free.
Et pouvoir nous.
That is the person that committed an act of domestic terror over the weekend. That is the person that killed Melissa Hortman and her husband and injured John Hoffman and his wife, Yvette. That is the man that had a target of 70 people, including institutions, healthcare centers, right? And yet you want to believe, we are to believe fucking Mike Lee, that this is the Democrats' problem, that man is somehow a Marxist? Are we fucking stupid here? To believe the lies that are spreading around on social media right now. That is out of that man's mouth.
It's not even Mike Lee. It's all of them.
It's all of them.
Elon Musk trying to make good with Donald Trump this past week after the fight that he had and realizing, oh no, Donald Trump is vindictive and he's going to lose some contracts. He blamed it on the left. Ted Cruz had it up even after it was corrected. Mike Lee doubled down on it, has it as a pin tweet. Donald Trump, as of last night, did not call Governor Waltz That's what the decorum protocol, right? You just call. That's what Biden did. That's what Obama did. You call. You say, hey, you need anything? You need any help? I'm so sorry. What can I do? But the reason why he's not offering help is because the help is all in LA terrorizing brown and black communities. I keep going back to the word terror, and I want to use the word terror. The intention is to terrorize. And with terror, what they do is they want you to cow in fear. They want you to bend the knee. They want you to stay in their home. They want you to be quiet. They don't want you to speak up, right? They don't want you to exercise their rights. They don't want you to have the right to assembly. And this man, in addition to the abortion providers, lawmakers, Democrats, Danielle, he also was planning to go after No Kings rallies. He was going to go to the No Kings rallies and try to terrorize the No Kings rallies. So what happened? As a result of the shooting, temporarily, briefly, Tim Walz and others said, hey, we're going to cancel and scrap our planned No Kings rallies, right? Yep. So the act of terror worked. But really remarkable photo. I don't know if you've seen, folks, in St. Paul, Minnesota, all those individuals showed up to the state capitol. It was packed. It was beautiful. And they had signs for Melissa and others, right? So even in terror, they weren't cowed, which is pretty remarkable. Think about it. Yep. You have an active shooter who has just killed 2 people, injured 2 others, nationwide manhunt. And, the governor and everyone else is saying, hey, guys, don't show up to the No Kings rallies. It's going to be dangerous. And people still spontaneously showed up. So I thought, respect to Minnesota, right? Shout out to Minnesota. Indeed, Jules, because that, they showed up. They said, no, F this. They showed up in defiance. They showed up against tyranny. They showed up against terror. And they showed up for Melissa Hortman and her husband and the people who were shot and killed. The entire project of terrorism, right, is to make the rest of us terrified, to make the rest of us bow down, to make the rest of us stay quiet. And I think what you're seeing is people stand up. We're going to talk about the No Kings rally, folks. It was one of the, allegedly, we're still waiting for the numbers, one of the most powerful, popular rallies in America. Like millions of Americans came out, like 12 million Americans. But speaking about terror and trying to connect the dots, Danielle and I have been saying the twin sins in America have always been white supremacy and greed. Anytime people of color, women, anyone who's marginalized exercises their votes and their freedoms to ask for and or demand that this country live up to its ideals, stretch and expand itself to include the rest of us as equal citizens, people who look like me and Danielle. White rage in this country puts it in a headlock and try to take us 2 steps back. 2 steps forward if you're an optimist. For every 2 steps forward, America takes 1 step back. If you're a cynic, for every 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And if you don't believe me, I give you this man who tried to kill Democrats who wanted to give women rights over their body, right? I give you Donald Trump. In response to this act of terror, he doubles down on terror. Show him, Danielle. This is from last night.
So this is from last night. This is Donald Trump's quoted post that Aaron Rupert put up following everything that has happened. And I just want to say this very clearly. Since we spoke to you, not even on Saturday, not even on Friday, but last week, Monday, since last week, Monday, there has been the National Guard and the Marines that were sent to California. There has been an attack on a sitting U.S. senator, right, who was handcuffed. There has been guns pointed out, a representative of Congress, Maxine Waters. There has been now a murder of a sitting state senator and her husband, and an attack on others. Also, in that time, protesters have been run over, right, in red states by people in cars, and another protester was killed in Utah. There was a shootout that was there. This has all happened in a week. In a week. So Donald Trump, in response, then says, you know what? Let's bring the temperature down. Let's de-escalate. No, I'm just kidding. He said this.
No.
We must expand efforts to detain and deport illegal aliens in America's largest cities, such as Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York, where millions upon millions of illegal aliens reside. These and other such cities are the core of the Democratic Power Center, where they use illegal aliens to expand their voter base, cheat in elections, and grow the welfare state, robbing good-paying jobs and benefits from hardworking American citizens. These radical left Democrats are sick of mind, hate our country, and actually want to destroy our inner cities, and they are doing a good job of it. There is something wrong with them. This is what the fuck the President of the United States of America posted over the weekend while there was a manhunt going on for one of his fanatics that murdered people. This is what Donald Trump does.
Well, can you also just go back to the cities, Danielle? Can you name the cities again?
Los Angeles, Chicago, New York. Democratic power centers.
Interesting. Well, what about cities in Florida and Texas?
Oh, no.
What about Mar-a-Lago?
No. You see, because Donald Trump got word from the hotel businesses, from farm workers and farmers that said, please don't come for our undocumented people because you're stymieing our farm and our produce production and our businesses in hotels. So Donald Trump is going full on for the cities, hoping to do what? Incite violence so that he can do what? Put in martial law so that he can do what? Take over this country in a militarized fashion. That is the point.
So no undocumented workers that are working at Mar-a-Lago or at the golf clubs in Florida that are owned by his rich friends or that operate pretty much everything in Texas because Texas would fall apart without undocumented labor, or who most likely work in construction sites in Midwestern red states or in factories in South Dakota, but in blue cities. Okay, got it. Oh, places like LA.
Right.
Can you tell them what happened here?
So in LA, people are out peacefully protesting. And like we said last week, we're praising the LAPD for putting out a statement saying that the protests were peaceful, yada, yada, yada. Now they're on horseback, kicking and firing crowd protection tactics like fire flashbangs into crowds of peaceful protesters. Jacob Sabaroff was out there in the moments where he's like, oh, as he was finishing his reporting, saying everything has been peaceful, things have been good, all of a sudden, mayhem breaks out on camera.
Yep.
That was instigated by whom? Law enforcement.
Literally on camera. You can't make this up. He says everything's peaceful here, and then a protester comes up openly saying, we are peaceful. We are exercising our First Amendment rights. And 20 seconds later, flashbangs and Jacob and everyone else is running, and they're taking the horses. Folks, some breaking news here, Danielle.
Yeah.
Vance Bolter, the man who is being charged with murder, right? For the shootings that killed 2 and injured 2. Guess what? Oof. He had stopped by at the homes of at least 2 other Minnesota elected officials as he carried out the attacks. So.
And they weren't home?
They weren't home.
Oh my God.
So he stopped by at 4 homes.
So 2 of those homes answered the door, or the doors were shot through. Man.
Yeah.
Man.
And folks, to this day, as we know, Donald Trump did not call the governor a waltz. He posted that insightful, hateful post while this was happening. I've been trolled all day because a tweet I did went viral, and all these right-wingers, people like Dinesh D'Souza, are still trying to make him into a Democrat. He's a Republican. They're still not acknowledging, by they I'm talking about the right wing, that this man is a registered Republican and Trump voter. They're still doubling, tripling down. And again, speaking about, it's not just the fringe, it's the entire base. if you can lie to their base, you cannot penetrate them, folks. If the right wing lies to their base of Republican voters, me and Danielle, no matter what we do, we will not reach them. And the tweet that I did that for whatever reason went viral is Vance Bolter, the man who committed political violence by assassinating and shooting Democratic elected officials, was a Trump voting registered Republican dash a U.S. citizen, not an immigrant. And they still refuse. I still get all these right wingers.
I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing, Waj. I don't know about you, but I'm not trying to convince them. I'm not going to try and convince people who believe that, like, you know, the sky is yellow and water isn't wet. Like, I'm not like this. That's not the goal here. The goal is for the American people that tapped out of the last election, which I'm not entirely sure wasn't stolen. And so let me just say that. And tapped out of the last election, decided that they weren't going to vote out of protest. And, you know, the millions of people that are still asleep and think that they just have to wake up in another 4 years, right? Like,
that won't affect them.
Those are the people that we're trying to reach and talk to. The other 40% of the public, like, nah, like, they're gone. They're lost. I'm not trying to, like, oh my God, Fox News should be posting this. Fox News is never going to do that.
Nope.
Donald Trump is never going to apologize, right? Like, he's never going to offer condolences because he's a sociopath, and sociopaths can't formulate, like, the feeling of empathy or sympathy or any feelings for that matter. So, I mean, here's another headline. Protesters shot and killed at No Kings rally in Utah. That happened over the weekend. A man who was believed to be a part of a peacekeeping team for No Kings protests in Salt Lake City shot at a person who was brandishing a rifle at demonstrators, striking both the rifleman and bystander, who later died at the hospital. Police took the alleged rifleman, Arturo Gamboa, 24, into custody Saturday evening on a murder charge. Salt Lake City Police Chief Brian Redd said at a Sunday news conference the bystander was Arthur Filosa Alu, who was 39 and a fashion designer from Samoa. So what did Waj say at the beginning of this show today? In a country of 330 million plus Americans, where there are 400 million guns, more guns than people, what do you think is going to happen as Donald Trump and MAGA continue to escalate their violent rhetoric and tactics and action? These things, this is going to be not that. This is going to be the norm, right? That, like, how is it that in this country we used to say, oh, we can go out, we can protest, and you're not fearing for the fact that, like, somebody is going to drive into you? Which, if you remember, Ron DeSantis in Florida said, oh, if you drive into a protest, protesters shouldn't be on the bridge. You're not going to be charged with vehicular manslaughter. Go for it. And other countries, other counties and spaces copycatted his legislation that said, drive into protesters. They shouldn't be on the streets. So these types of things are going to continue to happen. And it is terrifying. But Waj, we said this last week. We said it last week, and here we are on Monday. And so as we wrap up today, let's talk about the actual No Kings protest, so the 12 million number is believed that there were 5 to 6 million Americans that protested on Saturday, and that there were another 5 to 6 million that protested internationally, making it a total of 12 million people. But the numbers are still coming in. And just like, I just want to play this quick video. And I think this was posted on Gavin Newsom's page as a troll to Donald Trump. But just take a look at the images. I mean, this
And Hillary Clinton also trolled, Newsom trolled. And you know what? Troll this mother effer. Mock him, ridicule him. I was having dinner yesterday with my former roommate from law school, and he's a vet and he married a vet. And they were disgusted, by the way, right? And they said that military parade, they were so incensed watching it because the military should not be abused and politicized like that. And the fact they felt bad for the soldiers because your job as a soldier, they said, is just to follow orders. But no soldier wants to be there marching in the rain for a friggin' dictator, right? That's why the soldiers even looked miserable. And his wife, who was also just retired, she said, if you notice some of the formations, we're taught to be tight and crisp. The fact that they were like, a little bit out of step, that was a protest that no one caught. Like, we know how to march in sync. The fact that some people were a little bit like off, that was them protesting the fact that they even had to be there. So as our military is used to terrorize our citizens and march for a 79-year-old Bulgarian, the people came out and did this. And I think it's a big deal, Danielle. We've been saying, and you've been trying to stress this for the past couple of months, that once the sun comes out in the summer, people are going to come out. My fear is, as the people are coming out in record numbers, as the Quinnipiac poll came out last week and has Donald Trump underwater across the board, he will get more desperate. As he gets more desperate, he will get more violent, more extreme, more aggressive. Why? Because, folks, and this is important, he is a weak man and he has a weak regime. They do not have the numbers, and this shows it. They do not have the numbers. And I always thought they never had the numbers. And it shows it, right? This weekend shows it. They have never had the numbers. And so the question that I have asked, and I asked this over the weekend, and I asked this yesterday, was, if you look at all these images and you look at all these numbers, and if you are, I don't know, a corporate titan, I don't know, an anchor on a news show, I don't know, an elected official, I don't know, a CEO of a company, don't you sit there and say, you know what? The people are actually against this mother effer. The people are actually against this right-wing extremist regime. MAGA doesn't have the numbers. Maybe we don't have to bend the knee and placate them. Maybe we don't have to be cowards and sell our own integrity and our employees and the country, like all these law firms who bent the knee, or CBS or ABC, or all these Democrats who are useless and feckless and weak. And then, lo and behold, AOC gave me a gem of a quote. Want to tell people what was happening? What is happening in New York?
Yeah. So AOC, she said, we have had political leadership, including in the Democratic Party, that have just wanted to play it safe. I can play this clip for you so that you can hear it from her, because this is the truth.
We have had political leadership, including in the Democratic Party, that has just wanted to play it safe, that has just wanted to be neutral, where so many people are motivated by their own individual political careers. And I cannot tell you how shocked I have been to see so many of the individuals who called on Andrew Cuomo to resign in disgrace.
That are now supporting him.
Over Zoran Mamdani.
Yeah. And that was the end of that, which is, and they are now supporting him. Right? So in New York, I'm getting ready to vote this week to ranked choice vote for mayor. And guess who I'm not ranking at fucking all? Andrew Cuomo. Right?
Do not rank vote Andrew Cuomo if you're in New York.
Andrew Cuomo. Rank everybody else. Zoran is my number one pick. And then I'm going down the list. No Cuomo ranking at all. Because we're tired. Fact of the matter is that, like, we're tired. And do you know who else is tired as we wrap up? I just want to say this. Quinnipiac poll comes out. We talked about it a bit last week. But here are the numbers for Democrats. As Waj is saying, when you are the Democratic establishment, when you are these companies, when you are the law firms that have bent the knee with $1 billion in free pro bono work for any MAGA, person or outlet of Donald Trump's choosing, and you see 12 million people around the fucking world who are saying no kings, no Trump, we need law and order, we need leadership. Democrats are more unpopular right now at 21% than Donald Trump, who has a 38% approval rating, which, yes, Grumpy Cat, I agree, is still too high, but you have to put it into to correspond with other presidents at this 6-month mark of their presidency are usually at the height of their popularity. Donald Trump is at 38% underwater. But the fact is that Democrats' approval rating is in the toilet. Because
that means the people aren't switching from Donald Trump to Democrats. That means the people are like, this motherfucker's terrible. And they're also terrible. So when AOC says what she says, I think the polls are finally giving her and others like her the space to say what Danielle and I have been saying for a while. And I think that sentiment of calling out the Democratic establishment and the failure of the old guard, not using old as a pejorative against those who are older, but the old guard when it comes to thinking, is going to get more and more momentum now. And the fact that she said it and said it so bluntly, I shared it and I said, bravo, and I hope others do it, because people are sick and tired as MAGA and the right wing and Donald Trump and police officers and ICE are terrorizing our communities. You saw over the weekend, the majority of Americans said enough is enough in 2,000 rallies across this beautiful country, completely diverse. Folks, as I said before, and we'll end, they're a weak regime led by a weak man who know they're losing the numbers and they're going to get more desperate and more violent. We have to stay organized. We have to stay committed. We have to stay vigilant. We have to stay woke, and we have to play the long game. It's going to be a long walk. And I appreciate everyone who comes. Danielle has to run for another recording. But before we leave, folks, this is Democracy-ish. We're live every Monday and Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. We have 1,600 people. It's great. We're growing. Watching us live across all the platforms. We also have a midweek check-in Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern time on Substack Live. Speaking about Substack, Danielle and I have no paywalls. We have kept everything for free. We write and we do interviews and we record also on our Substack. I'm at the left hook. Started a year ago. We now have 71,000 subscribers. Thank you all. No paywalls. Pay what you can. It's thelefthook.substack.com. Danielle is at the Damn Digest. You can also go to her YouTube, Danielle Moody. If you have not become a subscriber to the Danielle Moody YouTube show, click the bell right now. She is how far away are you from 25,000?
I think that I may be like 100 subscribers away from 25,000 right now. So
200 more, Robert says. Yeah, 25.
okay.
And all the people who gave us these super stickers, thank you so much. It goes such a long way. Like literally, this is all, we have no corporate sponsors. We're completely independent. So the $5 here, the $4, the $3, it goes such a long way. Thank you all for supporting us. Danielle, please shamelessly promote yourself. What did I miss?
Yes, folks, I will be live tonight on YouTube on the Danielle Moody Show, 5 p.m. Eastern. So do show up for that. Back with Waj on Wednesday on Substack. Support our Substacks. You're looking to support us monthly, consider becoming a paid subscriber to Substack. We thank all the super stickers and super thanks here. Like Waj says, your money goes a long way. Support Waj as he grows his extraordinary Substack at 71,000. Let's get him to 100,000.
Hey.
So support him there. Folks, we appreciate you. This is Democracy-ish. We will see you back here, back on Substack on Wednesday. Folks, be well, stay safe. And we will see you soon.